Hi, good afternoon and welcome to the IMO in London. My name is Saskia. I work with the Maritime and Coast Guard Agency and I'm your host and chair for this afternoon's session. You're all very welcome. We're really glad to be joined with a few people in person, but most of you are online, so we're very grateful for you attending. And a big welcome to everybody joining us this afternoon, but also to those who are joining us for the recorded session tomorrow on the 14th. So this is the launch of the UK Shipping Concierge. Today is a really great positive day in the UK. The sun is shining and we have a new concierge service that we're here to talk to you about. It's a really exciting time for UK Maritime, as our distinguished panel are going to talk to you about in a minute. And I have the privilege to introduce to you soon the concierge team who you'll be meeting in person. And I can say from personal experience, this is the best of the best. You've got a really fantastic concierge team here. So I'm very much looking forward to introducing you to them later. We are also joined by a fantastic panel who I'll talk to you about in a bit. They're going to be sharing their views and perspectives on why this kind of service is needed, and they'll answer some questions that we've prepared for them. And then later on in the afternoon, we've got an open session. So please do start sending your questions in now. We're going to curate them and then we're going to have an open question discussion. So do send those in as soon as they come to mind. So without further ado, we'll go into the launch and we're going to hear from the UK Shipping Minister, Minister Courts, and we have a video prepared of him launching the service.
Today, I am delighted to announce the launch of the UK's new Shipping Concierge service at London International Shipping Week. Maritime truly is a global sector, and London International Shipping Week is one of the most respected and valued maritime events in the world. The UK is a great place to do maritime business. We're investing in new technologies. We are home to the world-leading centre of maritime financial and legal services and ship management, and we host an excellent port infrastructure. As part of the UK's initiative to build back better, the UK government plans to support further growth through significant investment in infrastructure, skills and innovation. Our vision is a truly connected global Britain. That's one that offers an innovative, productive and competitive environment for businesses to grow. Our new Shipping Concierge service will enable maritime businesses to benefit from the investment and unlock opportunities by providing a one-stop shop of advice, support and guidance. We have taken on board feedback from the industry about the process to create a streamlined, personalised experience for international maritime organisations looking to invest and operate in the UK. The team will help to rapidly connect its customers with the relevant departments, UK trade associations and related maritime specialists to ensure that ship owners and operators have access to the right expertise when they need it. While delivering excellent customer service and a personalised experience are at the heart of the service's aims, we want to go beyond merely providing a corporate account management service to ensure the UK is a place where maritime businesses can thrive. So the team will work across UK government and develop market insights to support policy decisions through ongoing dialogue with industry stakeholders. Today you will hear how the UK Shipping Concierge team, supported by the UK's Department for Transport and Department for International Trade, will become a valuable partner to your shipping operations. Whether you are looking for support with relocating your business or having presence in the UK, seeking comprehensive data insight or connecting with the right expertise within government, the UK Shipping Concierge service is here to help you. Thank you all for joining us today for the launch of this new service. And we look forward to working with you and your businesses to build back better and ensure that our maritime sector continues to thrive. Thank you.
Fantastic. So that's the concierge launch, which is very exciting. And we're now going to hear from the team. So it's my honour to introduce Mark Seastrom, who is the director of the UK Shipping Concierge. He's also my boss. And I have to say, he is absolutely fantastic. So the concierge is in really, really, really wonderful hands. So we really would encourage anybody who's interested or keen to find out more to come and talk to the team and start to make those connections. But over to Mark.
Thank you, Saskia, and thank you very much indeed to Minister Courts. And good afternoon, good evening and good morning to everyone joining us today around the world as we launch the United Kingdom's new shipping concierge service. London International Shipping Week brings together leaders from across the maritime sector, and we're delighted to welcome you all today. My name's Mark Seastrand, Director of the new UK Shipping Concierge service. My background is in commercial business, and it's a privilege to be leading this new service and supporting domestic and international maritime companies to build and grow here in the UK. Today, we will share what our service can offer you, and you'll get the opportunity to meet our team and ask questions to our panel guests who've kindly joined us for our launch event. The UK is ambitious for the future. Our vision is a truly connected global Britain, one which offers an innovative, productive and competitive environment for businesses to grow. Maritime faces significant challenges ahead, with climate change and increased automation driving unprecedented demand for change. One of our core values in the UK is the partnership between industry and government, and working together we can tackle these challenges and create opportunities for economic growth and job creation. Never has the partnership between UK government and our industry partners been more important. And our mission for the UK Shipping Concierge is to connect maritime businesses with the right expertise across UK government to unlock opportunities for growth. In PricewaterhouseCoopers' Catching the Wave report, published in 2019, there was a recommendation from industry for UK government to create a function to promote international shipping interests, coordinate between government departments, and act quickly to deliver assistance to those looking to have a presence in the UK. We've listened and responded. The UK Shipping Concierge will deliver on this recommendation. Our new UK Shipping Concierge service provides a one-stop shop, open around the clock for maritime business. We're focused on the needs of ship owners, operators and other maritime subsectors, providing an accessible, straightforward, streamlined service to connect your business with the right experts across UK government and industry. We combine a wealth of specialist maritime sector experience with our government connections to make your business in the UK smooth sailing. We have developed market insights capability to provide UK government policy leads and industry partners with data to support strategic decision making. Our connections with academia and shipping experts across the UK can provide a wealth of support on key business challenges. The international maritime market is highly competitive, and a key role for the UK Shipping Concierge is to identify barriers to entry to the UK and work with policy leads across government departments to suggest solutions for consideration. We are proactive, action-focused, and believe in unlocking opportunities for domestic and international business through our network of expertise. The UK Shipping Concierge is a cross-government service. We will work closely with experts across these departments and provide them with market insights to help inform policy decisions. We will listen carefully to industry and work closely with the UK's leading maritime associations, all of whom provide outstanding support to their members. We are not a policy team, and we act entirely in the best interests of growing UK maritime. For businesses, it can be a challenge to find the right person to talk to in UK government. Our team is here to help you, so please contact us and we will link you with the right experts who can best respond to your needs. Over the last 18 months, I've had the privilege of working with industry partners and policy leads across government to help unlock opportunities for growing the UK maritime economy and creating new maritime jobs. The work of the UK Shipping Concierge started well before today, and we now have the resources, the network and the capability to expand our work and deliver the UK's ambitions for maritime. We would not be here today without the support of Minister Courts, the Maritime and Coast Guard Agency Board and our colleagues in the Department for Transport and Department of Industry and Trade. We're very grateful for their support and recognition that by joining up the expertise we have across government, we can truly make a difference. I would also like to thank Maritime UK, Maritime London and the UK Chamber of Shipping for providing their support to the UK Shipping Concierge service. Thank you all for taking this time to join us today. The UK has a proud maritime heritage, and the UK Shipping Concierge, the first of its kind anywhere in the world, signifies our continued investment in UK maritime. Our team is here to help you, so please contact us and we will strive to support your business however we can. Thank you all very much, and I'll now hand back to Saskia.
Great, thank you very much, Mark. Good to hear. So now we're going to hear from the team who are actually involved in delivering this. And so we have with us on the panel, we have Joanna Swar, and we have Graham Candy and Victoria Snellgar. So Joanna, can I ask you to introduce yourself?
Thank you, Saskia. Hello, Joanna Swar. I'm a commercial lead within the team with the UK Shipping Concierge. I have spent past 20 years working in shipping, working in Asia, Europe and the Middle East with ship owners, ship managers and classification society. I'm delighted to be part of the UK Shipping Concierge team, and my role is to deliver the best possible commercial offer to attract and sustain business within the UK. Very briefly, the offer is broad, but I will just touch on amazing maritime research centres with focus on digitalisation. We have very mature and well-developed maritime legal and financial services network. This may be of particular interest to ship owners and ship managers who are looking to have a footprint in the UK. Our location, connectivity and talent pool is second to none. So please do contact us and we'll be delighted to assist you. Thank you.
Fantastic, thank you. And then Graham?
Thank you, Saskia, and good afternoon, everyone. I'm Graham Candy, and I have the pleasure of being the new UK Shipping Concierge account manager. Some of you will be aware of me in my previous roles within government, most recently as an account manager within the Maritime and Coast Guard Agency's UK Ship Register. The new concierge role that I'm taking up will enable me to continue and engage with the many existing contacts that I've established in government and industry over the last 20 years, and also look to forge new contacts and support people who are looking, and companies who are looking to the UK as a place to do business. My role will be key to support, connect government and industry to the right policy experts and ensure that we can help unlock opportunities for anybody looking to establish a base in the UK maritime sector.
And then over to you, Vic.
Thanks, Saskia. Good afternoon, everyone, and I'm the Operations Manager for the UK Shipping Concierge. So my experience then is I've been in the cruise line industry for the past 10 years, looking after some of the UK's largest ship launches, crisis management operations across the globe, as well as overseeing a regional sales operation in the UK and Ireland. My role in the UK Shipping Concierge team is to really listen to our customers' needs, whether that be our internal partners with central government or industry, and develop a service that ensures when moving to the UK is smooth sailing. Our service will be an effective and efficient one, and it will provide an around-the-clock 24/7 service to enable us to cater for both domestic and international customers. We look forward to hearing from you. We've got very many social media channels. It's a soft plug. So we've got a Twitter channel, a LinkedIn channel, or please do contact us via our email channel, which will be available on the screens shortly. We look forward to seeing some of you throughout the week, but if not, we do look forward to hearing from you in the near future. Thank you very much.
Fantastic, great. Okay, so I think what we'll do now is if I ask our colleagues here from the concierge team to head down, then we'll get our panel speakers up. So whilst that's happening, let me just explain to you who the panel are. So we have Laura Marquis from who's Deputy Head of Maritime Operations at the Department for Transport. So welcome, Laura. Laura heads a division with responsibilities including seafarers, maritime skills and training, safety, resilience and port security. She has a particular focus on ensuring that the UK continues to be at the forefront of protecting and promoting seafarer welfare, which obviously is a critical issue at the moment. And she's previously led the delivery of the government's flagship for Maritime 2050 strategy, which we know very well at the MCA. And she also has led UK efforts at the International Maritime Organisation, which is where we are hosted today. And she's an economist by training and joined the civil service in 2007 and has also worked in aviation, which is great because then we have some things to learn from that sector too, and housing as well as climate change policy. So you're very welcome, Laura. Okay, next up is John Hutchinson. So John is Head of Civil Maritime at the Department for International Trade, and John heads up the Maritime Capability Campaign Office. He's had over 20 years' experience working across government, science and the private sector in senior policy and operational delivery roles, including working closely with ministers as a managing director for a green energy company. So you're very welcome, John. Then we also have Joss Standerwick, who is the Chief Executive Officer of Maritime London. I'm sure many of you know all of our panellists, actually. So Joss began his career working in Uganda as General Manager of an industrial generator business. I lived in Uganda, so we're going to have to discuss this. Primarily working on the burgeoning mobile telecoms market. Returning in 2005, he read politics at the University of Southampton, and has worked since then in the maritime sector. Before joining Maritime London as Chief Executive in July 2017, Joss was Director of Development and External Affairs at global maritime charity The Mission to Seafarers, where he had overall responsibility for communications, industry engagement and income generation. So as you can see, a great panel. I'm sure they're going to be able to field a lot of the questions that you might have, so do start sending those in. It's going to be really good to hear from them. I think if we start, Mark, did you want to say anything before we go over to the panel questions?
I'm happy to crack on.
Okay, great. So to the panel then, I think let's just start with just sort of general reflections on what we've heard this morning. Obviously, we've heard from the Shipping Minister, we've heard from the team. So maybe we start with Laura. What are your kind of general reflections and thoughts about the concierge service?
Sure, thank you, Saskia. Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you very much for having me with you this afternoon. Great to be here at my first event for LISW 2021, and what better way to start? And what different to say, because Mark, you've already stolen many of the good words, as Minister Courts, but let's keep adding to it. And it really is, it's a service that is just going to make doing maritime business in the UK that little bit easier. We already know it's a great place to do business. It's just joining the dots and making life a little bit easier. And there's only good things that can be said about that. I think, Mark, you've already mentioned it is that sort of true partnership between industry and government. And government, that word covers a multitude of sins, doesn't it? We certainly know that in the sort of good thing of the UK government is the sheer breadth and depth and its expertise. The flip side of that is then, as you said, trying to find the right people at the right time. And this concierge service just really does that. It helps you zero in on the right person at the right time and have those conversations that just make either setting up a business or moving in an established business that much quicker. And again, I think in the times that we are living in, we've sort of realised now more than ever that I think we all know that shipping is a sort of 24/7, 365 days a year business. Everyone else has realised that, I think, now. And again, the concierge service just gives that offering that matches, that sort of 24/7 offering that matches the nature of the business and just underlines that we are here on hand to help our colleagues at any time, whenever they need us.
Yeah, fantastic. And I think from the Department of Transport's perspective, obviously, Mark's mentioned this is a cross-government piece. Although it's housed at the Maritime and Coast Guard Agency, it's not just our initiative. I mean, did you want to speak to that a bit more, maybe?
Absolutely. And I think, as I've said, it's that partnership between government and industry, but it's that partnership within government as well. And at times we can think of ourselves as sort of, yes, a representative from the Department for Transport, but in this instance, it's the UK government and what our collective offering is and trying to do that seamless offering so that you're having that same conversation once rather than 5 or 6 different times. So from a Department for Transport perspective, it's hitting on the nail on the head in terms of what the concierge offers. You've already mentioned my sort of role in the government's Maritime 2050 strategy that was published, I think, just a few months before the Catching Wave report that's already been mentioned as well. And the seeds were sown there in terms of our commitment to that partnership, to our commitment to being a sort of a premium quality offering and being unashamed about that. It's a good thing. And just really, really living up to what we wrote a few years ago. And it's just great that this is now, it's live, it's out there. It's always been there in spirit, I think, what we've wanted to offer. It's just putting that badge to it. And as I keep coming back to, just making life a little bit easier for everyone that wants to interact and ask us questions.
Fantastic, great. And over to John, what are your kind of initial reflections and thoughts from what we've heard this morning?
Hi, thanks for having me today. It's nice to see some people in the flesh and some people virtually, but one of the first times I've had a suit and tie on for a little while, I think. But I think this is a fantastic offer we have here, clearly of great benefit, not just for connecting up different government departments, but actually for some added value coming in there as well, looking at that market intelligence, looking at the data and bringing that together so we can add something on so that anybody who is interested in relocating to the UK has that soft landing, and that's something that is maybe lacking up to now in some areas. I mean, the other thing is looking at the policy aspect as well and making sure we can join up and push to try and knock down those barriers to entry. I mean, in the Department for International Trade, that's something that we quite often do when looking outwards, trying to knock down barriers to entry, but it's good to have somebody here working in that in the UK so we can bring more and more people in. And that's something I'd be very, very happy on working towards doing that. And then lastly, there's that sort of gap there in looking at the shipping lines that isn't necessarily covered. And this is something that's going to cover that, get that remit, look at that sort of policy and regulatory environment and begin to push that aspect. And again, it's something that I think I can work very, very closely with going forward, and I'm looking forward to doing it so that we can pool our resources, work together and make the best of this. And it's something I'm very, very excited about.
Brilliant. And Joss, what are your kind of initial thoughts and reflections?
Yeah, thank you. Well, firstly, I think I'm exceptionally happy that today has happened. You know, 2 years ago, the Catching the Wave report was launched with this recommendation. And since then, we've been working very closely with our colleagues at the MCA and the DFT, etc. And it's great that you guys have, you know, listened to what industry wants and responded in this way. In regards to how I think the new concierge service can help the shipping industry, without getting drawn into the European Union and the effectiveness or not of it, Henry Kissinger once said of it, if I want to call Europe, who do I pick up the phone to? And I think that was very true of the government in terms of how it engages with the shipping industry up until now. And I really hope that the concierging service becomes that central hub, not only for people who are looking to invest in the UK to pick up the phone to, but also in terms of that proactive marketing and PR piece to explain to the global shipping community what's going on in the UK. And just on that point, I think that whilst the business environment can be improved, and there's always things that can be done, we have an incredibly competitive offer here, and we shouldn't lose sight of that. We're the world leaders in terms of professional services, as has already been noted. We have a thriving tech and startup hub in terms of the shipping industry in the UK, just down the road in London, in Marsat and Digital Roundabout, or whatever it's called, I can't quite remember, but it's there, it's happening, and it's thriving. We are working on the fiscal environment very closely with government. I think there can be improvements there, but ultimately we're not in a bad place. And one of the things that we need to be better at is telling that story. And I think this concierge service can really do that and get out there and talk to the message. And as I say, provide that single route in to government when you're looking to invest in what is a complex market with a number of stakeholders. And I'm really excited about working with you guys.
Fantastic. Thank you very much, Joss. Okay, so I think we'll move into the open question session. So we've already had one question in so far, which is great. So keep them coming. Now is your chance to ask. So the first question is, can the speakers help outline how the concierge service will help to increase the number of UK ratings and officers employed in the shipping industry? So I think I might go over to John on this one. Have you got any thoughts about how they might be able to?
Yeah, sure. I mean, if we can use this service to try and bring in more operators, more shipping lines into the country, and by talking about that great offer we already have, I mean, as Joss was saying earlier, we have a fantastic offer here. We've got a great financial service offer, insurance market, we've got innovation, we've got universities, we've got a deep supply chain, a commitment to decarbonisation in a growth area, and these standards. And why would you not want to come to the UK? You begin to attract that, you begin to sell that message abroad, and you bring these companies in there, then it begins to create investment, it begins to improve the UK brand. As more and more companies come in, they begin to buy in turn from the supply chain. employing more and more people, increasing the number of ratings you have, and then they can reinvest that money again. And what you've got is a virtuous cycle that begins to grow and grow. And then from my point of view, it means then I can then hopefully start to export abroad more and more, which is something I'm very, very keen on doing.
Great, thank you. Okay, and then one for Mark. What do you see, Mark, as kind of the first key objective for the team? What's going to be the top priority?
I think, first of all, building relationships, both across government and with industry partners. That's one of our top priorities. There's probably 2 or 3 I'd like to talk about rather than just one, but that's a key one. I think we need to be proactively marketing the UK wherever we can, and I think John and Joss have kind of touched on that. We must do that. We do have a couple of projects we're working on at the moment, which are all designed around growing maritime business in the UK, and this plays into what John was just saying about how do we attract, a better pipeline of seafarers through the market here. So we have got a couple of projects that are designed around growing the economy and creating new jobs specifically. So we'll be working on those. And then, so we want to hear from as many industry leaders, operations as possible so that we can build that network, listen to what the market wants from us and react to that. And we've got a lot to do. We've got a team very focused and motivated to get that done. And literally after this, we start work here in London International Shipping Week.
Fantastic, thank you, Mark. Okay, we have got another question in. So, noting this initiative is centred around UK shipping, can you confirm the linkage and commitment as a maritime nation to UK ratings? There is an obvious void in the training and employment of UK ratings, so I would be interested to understand where within this competitive initiative it will benefit the UK seafarer and specifically ratings.
I think Laura.
Yeah, Laura?
tricky one. No, I think it's carrying on from what John said, and it's that offer in the round that sort of speaks to all the different sort of, I think, career opportunities as well for ratings there. We can dig into what the gaps are, and I think it's important to recognise that the concierge service isn't sort of going to be able to answer everything in the immediate. This is day one. We are in this for the long haul, and want to keep having the conversations with what are the barriers to entry, what are the little niggles that people have at this point in time that maybe questions when they are coming to those investment decisions. But we are certainly committed to a comprehensive skills offering from the UK government and working with our established industry partners in the UK. There are great sort of support and training networks in place. I'm this evening heading off to a skills focused event, which again just sort of underlines our commitment to that. And we want to continue to make sure that particularly for ratings, that offer is there because they really are the talent pipeline and people that really do keep certainly this country sort of operating, fed, warm watered, etc. So it's day one. Let's keep having the conversation about what we continue to do to make the UK as attractive a place to do business as possible.
Can I just say as well, Saskia, I think the other opportunity for the concierge is to listen to those kind of questions. And then talk to the right experts across government on those questions, and then be able to play back, the position and the logic and the reasoning behind why we have certain policies and how we're progressing our offer. I don't think we as a concierge team will have the answers, as Laura said. I think our job is to connect and find the right people who have got the answers, and with a commitment to industry to be able to go back with those answers and help move things forward. So that's a great question, and we will take that one away and come back to the person who's asked the question offline when we've had a chance to find the right people.
Great, so it's already working. Brilliant. Okay, so we've got another question here about incentives. So it would be interesting to understand some of the incentives that will be offered by the UK government to encourage companies to relocate parts of their business. So I think maybe John might be best placed to answer that. Is that okay?
Okay. Well, obviously we've got the incentives, the natural incentives we have. Part of it is about advertising those and making sure we're reaching out and telling that story and telling that message, which is probably one of the first goals of this service, making sure everybody's aware of that and using what we have. In terms of other incentives taking that forward, I mean, there's a number we've got. We've got a whole suite of packages that we could use to help push that at DIT. For instance, when you've got a new high potential opportunity in the southwest, we've developed a new investment proposition as well. And we're currently looking at a new investment strategy, which we can then start looking at some of the questions that you have, that you bring through us, and working as a team to develop that, and seeing what would it require to bring those people in that we're not necessarily getting just now. So we'd be very keen on working with you on that going forward and seeing what further could be done.
Great. Okay. So another question, they're all flooding in now, so it's excellent. So Asian maritime hubs, for example, Singapore, has done a fantastic job linking a number of government departments and shipping bodies, for example, inland revenue, finance and trade, etc., to provide a fully integrated approach to attract ship owners. So it's a long question. Ship owners and operators into Singapore. They are very favourable tax rates and provision for owners, operators, managers, charters, commodity players. To what extent will the concierge service influence Her Majesty's government to adopt a similar competitive approach? I might give that one to you, Mark.
I think it's probably good. A great question. I think in putting the concierge service together, we reflected on what is out there in the world, and Singapore, the point that's made there is right. Singapore do a great job of connecting all parts of government with industry to advance their maritime offer, which is fantastic. And we have got the same level of ambition. Part of the reason for setting up the concierge and launching today at London International Shipping Week is to open the doors. We are a global Britain, and we really want to be right up there in terms of a home for great maritime business. I think in terms of the offer, I think one of our first jobs, which I didn't mention earlier and probably should, but another of our early jobs is to look at our offer in the round against the international market and have a look at opportunities where we can make change, where we can advance our competitiveness, and that we need to look across the board. And just the various departments that were mentioned in the question are the same departments in UK government that we are already connected with across the board. So it's important that we have stakeholders across government who are vested in maritime, and we can join everybody up and have the right level of conversation to say, well, this is what we need to do to attract business here. Here's the barriers to entry. Here are the opportunities, and do our best to influence and shape that dialogue to give policy leads across government the best chance of making informed decisions that are right for the UK.
Fantastic, thank you.
Mark, could I come in there? Sorry, just quickly. I think it's a really good question, and don't get me wrong. I am, I want to have the most competitive tax environment for the shipping industry in the UK as possible. However, I think that just focusing on tax is a bit of a misstep, to be honest. I mean, firstly, I think the way the shipping industry is taxed is going to change. And the concierge service needs to be imagining what the future of the shipping industry is going to look like and not what it currently looks like. I think we all know that carbon is going to be the biggest tax that the shipping industry is going to face in the future. And to be honest with you, it will make other tax regimes fade into insignificance. And how the UK can support owners and operators through that carbon tax, however it manifests in the future, is going to be critically important. And the other point, and this is associated with decarbonisation as well, and I think it's really important that we understand this, and there's a really important role for the concierge service here, is that in order to decarbonise the sector, there needs to be a significant injection of equity into the market. And that's going to require capital markets, and it's going to require institutional investment as well. And to get that sort of capital, owners are going to need to have enhanced levels of transparency to appeal to publicly traded entities who are going to be investing in these ship owners in the future. And the UK is uniquely well placed to provide a home for those sorts of entities. And if we understand what the future of the shipping industry is like, we can start attracting those owners, operators, ship managers who want to be part of that future. And I think, whilst it's great, whilst we want to have as competitive a tax environment as possible, understanding what the future of that tax environment looks like is really, really important to the UK.
Great, thank you, Joss. Actually, whilst you're there, Joss, I have another question for you. In terms of the new concierge service, what would be your advice to the service? What do you hope we do and do well?
Yeah, I think I've sort of just said it, I think the most important thing is to understand where the shipping industry is going globally and not be overly obsessed as to where it's been, I suppose. I think a lot of the issues we talk about in terms of the business environment still focus on what might be termed as the 20th century shipping industry. And I think the market is changing very, very quickly. And this concierge service needs to listen very carefully to the market, to the industry stakeholders within the market, to ensure that the advice that they're giving and the support they're giving is relevant to owners who I say, are looking to invest in what is a fast-changing market.
And linked to that, Mark, for you, in regards to the UK maritime sector, what opportunities does this present to the UK sector?
I think we have a huge number of opportunities. I think the obvious one and the main focus of our efforts is decarbonisation and how we manage that transition from where we are today to where we're going to be in 20, 30 years from now. And I think that brings in a whole series of opportunities for the UK and challenges for shipping. And one of the roles I think we can play in the concierge is to be part of the conversation, listen really carefully to industry and our colleagues at Maritime London and others, and really hear the messaging and then think about how we play that back into government across the board in terms of what's needed. So I think decarbonisation is the biggest challenge facing shipping. Certainly in all my dialogue thus far with senior executives across multiple shipping companies, that is the main topic of conversation, is how do we transition to zero emission fuels, and it's huge. So yeah, I think the opportunities there for the UK, and I won't go over it again, but John outlined some of the great advantages we've got as a country, and I think it's about how we harness those as we move over the coming years and then longer term to decarbonise shipping.
Yeah, fantastic, thanks. It might be worth saying as well, we have the team looking at decarbonisation sits alongside the concierge service, so we're very closely connected, aren't we? And there's a session on decarbonisation tomorrow that we're running as well, if people are interested. Okay, we've had another question in. It says, we have seen a difference in safety standards as a consequence of operators flagging out to other flags, and those flag states not responding to seafarer queries. Will the shipping concierge help with bringing operators back to the UK flag? I think maybe, John, if you could take that one.
Sure. I certainly think we could, and that's something we could use our network to as well to help do that. I mean, DIT has a large network of trade officers overseas, and by linking up with the concierge and by getting that message out and bringing them across into the flag, that's something we could work on together. So I think it is a really good opportunity to do this, especially as we're moving into a new sort of framework now where we're beginning to sign these free trade agreements. We're beginning to move away from Brexit, and we're beginning to strike out on our own. It's about building that brand, that global Britain brand, and beginning to talk about our good story and what we can do. And this is a kind of inflection moment. And it could be, building on those aspects of decarbonisation we've talked about before, and one of the ways to attract it, because that is critical for the sector and something we are keen on pushing on an awful lot. I mean, they're told that by 2050, the vast majority of maritime will be green maritime, and that's the opportunity to position ourselves in going forward and begin to attract people to a flag which is committed to environmental standards and to pushing up as much decarbonisation as possible, and is something government is really behind. And we will be launching our green shipping campaign on Wednesday, which will begin to talk about that in a bit more detail.
And Mark, maybe you could speak to how the flag fits with the concierge.
I would say a couple of things. I think I'm not going to comment on other flag states, but I think in terms of, I know Katie Ware and the team in the Maritime and Coast Guard Agency, the work they've done over the last 18 months through COVID to support shipping has been amazing. And the UK flag has stood up and supported ship owners and ship operations around the world when it was really needed. We have a really good flag operation in the UK. It's part of our offer across government, one component part of the offer. And of course, the Red Ensign flying around the world is a great thing for marketing the UK. And so what I would say is I think our standards are very high and don't see any reason why that's not going to be improved over time even further. And particularly the role the flag can play in decarbonisation is going to be really important with the expertise that we've got in future technologies in our Maritime and Coast Guard Agency and survey and inspection teams, and the expertise, the knowledge and experience of shipping is just amazing. And we've got that in the UK, and I think, you know, flag is more than just the flag on the back of the ship. It's everything that sits behind it, and all of the safety assurance and quality and risk assurance we can give owners and operators.
Yeah, fantastic. Okay, so we have a question here around HMRC, and the question is around that there's a similar sort of service in existence in HMRC, and is this concierge service currently linked up with that team?
Short answer is yes.
Okay,
we are linked with HMRC. And we've been working with HMRC for a few months, and we've got the connections there. And obviously now we get, once we get, now we're launched and get established, then we'll just build stronger relationships there. Obviously we won't be doing the same work they do. They're very much focused on taxation, but we will be able to link people who talk to us with the right people in that team to make sure it's just, as Laura said earlier, just smooth across government, no matter what the subject matter.
Yeah, fantastic. Okay, and then in terms of the government working relationships, Laura, what's sort of your hope for Department of Transport and how it's going to work with the concierge service?
I mean, I think putting the sort of layer of the concierge services as sort of, it's a new name on what's already there in terms of the Maritime and Coast Guard Agency, Department of Transport, sort of go hand in hand. That's the way that we like to think of it. And but it's that ease of saying this is through the concierge service. There's just a bit of an extra ease to opening the door to those conversations. Mark's entirely right when he can sort of, well, in a good way, so put your hands up and say, we're not the policy team, but here to make those connections for you. And obviously I'm sitting here, but it's not just, certainly not just me in the Department for Transport. And it's not even just, say, maritime interest in the Department for Transport, because maritime by its very nature is then plugged into the wider transport network as well. And that's where, again, we can make those connections with colleagues, not just sort of the couple of sort of three figures that work in the maritime sector, but then the thousands that work in the wider Department for Transport. As we've already just mentioned HMRC, many other departments across government, where those conversations have been going on for many years. This just gives that ease of conversation of, I'm picking up the phone, doing whatever it is under the auspices of the concierge service. Someone immediately knows, aha, this is something we want to respond to. This is what could come out the other end in terms of, is it enhanced investment in the UK? Is it a new business opportunity we want to talk about? Has someone identified a barrier to entry or problem we've not heard of before? Or they've come up with they've got an idea, let's listen to it. It just keeps the flow of conversation going that much easier. And it's a brand, as we've already talked about. We like to think of ourselves as that premium brand, and doing things under the auspices of the concierge service. Again, it's just a good conversation starter across government.
Fantastic. And John, the same kind of question really, like what are your hopes for how it's going to work, and how will it make your life a bit easier at Department for International Trade?
So I'm hoping we're looking at a sort of real partnership going forward across not just the IT and the concierge service, but across the whole of government, as we begin to use as a nexus to begin to pull together some of these key aspects. Clearly, the handovers need to be very well done. The communication has to be well done. But this is all about communication. It's all about knocking those down. It's about cutting out those extra layers and making sure it's smooth. So I'm hoping we've got a good conversation going forward. We've got linking in regularly. We're beginning to work together. That information and market intelligence you're bringing, and the links you're bringing, is also flowing our way. And likewise, we are flowing to you, so we become greater than the sum of our parts. And I can see that working across the whole of government. So something I'm quite excited about. I had a long conversation with your colleague Graham about how we can really push this forward and how we can begin to work together in making sure this is getting a maximum benefit for UK, and something I'm looking forward to.
Fantastic. And Joss, I mean, what are your thoughts about building back better, and what are your stakeholders saying to you about what they want to see? I mean, you have touched on that a bit already, but are there any other thoughts on that?
In terms of building back better, you know, I think it's a, what do I think about building back better? I think it's an interesting strategy, and I think that this is part of that strategy. But, you know, let's not conflate this with too many other things, I think. If the MCA concierge, if the UK government concierging service is going to work, then it needs to be a real vector for expertise and knowledge, and not just become a vehicle for sound bites, I suppose. You know, you guys need to really understand the shipping industry, and not only sort of explain what the UK is doing to stakeholders within the shipping industry around the world, and in the UK for that matter, but also explain it to the civil servants across numerous government departments as well. And I think that's a really important piece, is that, you know, we can't expect every government department and every civil servant who touches on the shipping industry, the maritime sector, within those government departments to be an expert in the shipping industry. And I think you guys can really help there and inform the debate and ensure that there is a cohesive view in terms of how we drive the sector forward in the UK.
Yeah, the more I hear about it, the more I want a concierge service for my life. It sounds fantastic. Okay, and I think another question that's bubbling in my head, and I'm sure a lot of our participants as well, is how will this work in practice? So if one of our colleagues is at home now and they're quite interested, what happens next, and how will it work in practice?
So I think Vic said earlier, all our media channels are now open. We have a webpage on gov.uk, and we'll be able to share that with participants on the call. I would say very important message is we're open 24/7. So wherever you are in the world, if you're interested in talking to us about shipping in the UK, or if you're a domestic UK operator and you're interested in connecting with the right people, not sure who to contact or where to get an answer to your question, then get in touch with us. We've got a centralised email address, and we've got all of our media channels. We've got a team ready to manage those, so please talk to us. And we're open for business, so please, you know, get in touch, and we'll find the right people to connect you with across either government or working with industry partners in the sectors that support maritime, not just ship owners and operators, but those that are there to support them. So we can do both. And our network's pretty good already, but obviously over the next few months it's going to get bigger. So that job will get more and more easy and as time goes by.
And I think what I found interesting was that it isn't just things like tax and the Treasury, it's everything from like housing and building management, and, you know, it's a huge suite of services that you are able to connect to, isn't it?
Yeah, and I think Joss said it. We've got to tune in with where the future of shipping's going. What is the debate? What are the issues and challenges? What are the barriers to entry? And focus our efforts on future looking, not just looking at today. And it's broad. I mean, we are truly cross-government, so we're looking at all government, linking customers with all government departments.
Great. And we have a small but very beautiful and perfectly formed human audience in the room. Does anybody have any questions or anything to add from the floor? No, not at this stage. Okay, I think we do have time for a couple more questions, so if you do have any, send them in. We don't have any yet that have come up on screen, so if you have any burning questions, get them in now and we'll make sure they're asked. But just to give people a bit of time to put in any questions, maybe if we just have final thoughts from the panel. So if we start with Joss, any other sort of thoughts or recommendations or ideas? Yeah,
I mean, I think, as I said earlier, this concierge service is coming at a perfect time, really, within the shipping industry. As I say, the market's changing. Equity needs to come into the market. I think that what we think of as a ship owner will change, and there'll become more asset managers moving forward. This plays really well into the strengths of the UK. And having a service like this where, you know, to be honest with you, instead of ringing multiple government departments to complain to, I only have to ring one. And that's really helpful, you know. No, but being serious, to have a single point of entry to cascade information into the UK and to put information out to the international market is going to be really useful And you know, it is riding on the wave of what is a fast-changing market, and I think that's really exciting for us right now.
Great. We have had a question come in actually, which is great. So it says, will there be a drive around UK apprentices within this scheme, especially as we talk about the future? This needs to be central to the discussion, does it not? I don't know where that should go. Mark?
Well, I would. It's a great question, and it's another one that we'll take away, and as we go into business as usual, we'll pick it up rather than in this event. I think it's a really good question. I think I've done quite a bit of work thinking about the future of seafaring as the industry changes, and I think there's huge opportunities for the UK. So it's a great topic. Whoever's asked the question again, we will reach out after this session and have a more in-depth conversation about what the ideas are, and we'll make sure we connect that with the right leads across government.
There's definitely a theme, isn't there, about people coming in, about seafarers. So that's
and it's great, and we really want to hear from people directly so that we can pick this up as our day job.
Yeah, fantastic.
Can I just chip in there? Maybe I can say this as I'm not part of government, but you know, there is obviously a strong people focus in terms of the questions that have come through, and that's great. And I think there's a lot of really good initiatives both within government and with industry that are focusing particularly on seafarers. And you know, as a derivative impact of this concierge service, I hope the flag will go. I hope there'll be more UK officers and ratings, but it's really important that we understand what this concierge service is there to do and what it's not, because you've got to remain focused if you're going to be successful in your objectives, I suppose. And as I say, I think all of these things might come down the track, but you know, really, you guys are the mouthpiece for selling the UK, and you know, crack on and get going. You know.
We've had another question in. So you've been talking about the service being available 24/7. Are there any charges for this, or is this a free service to the maritime industry?
It's a free service to the maritime industry. It's an easy one, that one.
Great. Yeah, I think it speaks to what you were saying, Laura, isn't it? We know that shipping is a 24-hour, 365-day-a-year business. So, yeah, we will respond to that. Okay, and then, John, any other final thoughts or reflections?
I suppose building on what Joss said and what I said earlier is, well, you can seize the opportunities you've got just now to push out and get those quick wins. I think it's looking to the future. I mean, you're at a sort of inflection point just now, but things are changing. These, the decarbonisation technology is coming forward. You've got growth market. You've got these FTAs, etc. So you want to start looking at what we could do and who we could bring in, and begin to structure some of that around that. So that's one aspect. And then the other thing is around the scope as well. So making sure you're quite focused on what you're wanting to achieve and not getting too drawn into policy area. Make sure it's quite direct on those bits you're after, and then making sure that the delineations between the departments are firm, and you know where the handoffs are and the communication pieces, so we can work effectively and seamlessly across. You'd be the front person, but in the back we're supporting you behind the scenes and helping to bring that forward.
Fantastic. And Laura, I mean, it would be good to hear a bit more about how the department sees this fitting in with the decarbonisation of shipping as well.
No, I'm happy to do that. And I think in terms of an overall reflection also, I'm now quite excited for the next time either my phone or my laptop bings with either Mark or one of the teams, because that means that inquiries and questions are coming in, and just getting stuck into it is something that's really exciting. But certainly in terms of a decarbonisation one, you could fill weeks and days talking about it, couldn't you? Because it really is the sort of big thing coming at us. But from a sort of Department of Transport UK government perspective, it's being, again, unashamedly ambitious about what the UK can do on this. That's why our Secretary of State for Transport today has been offering his support, not just for the UK Chamber of Shipping statement of aiming for net zero emissions, but actually saying we believe that absolute zero is impossible, and it's what you've got to aim for. Is it going to be difficult? Sure, it's not going to be easy. It is the biggest challenge that the sector faces, but you've got to aim big to try to get there. And again, sort of the concierge service and then the connections that can be made within government, it sort of speaks to the decarbonisation agenda in spades in terms of the opportunities that are in there for innovation, for technology, the skills. We're going to need people and the skills to get to net zero and ultimately absolute zero emissions. And it's something that we're committed to, and we're in a building that also is spending a lot of its time talking about how it gets there in the UK. Will sort of is committed to playing its part alongside it, sort of like-minded states in getting there. But again, the questions that come into the concierge service on this, sort of absolutely fascinated to see what those are. Again, any barriers to entry, any questions that come up on that one. Obviously, Mark and the team are standing there as sort of first responders, but then there is that network behind it in terms of not just the Department for Transport, but the Department for Business, Business, Energy, I'm going to get it wrong, BEIS does energy, working with DEFRA on the environment. Just that breadth there is there, and we can give that sort of comprehensive support to how we meet our decarbonisation efforts. Yeah. But yeah, excited to see what comes.
I think it's energy industrial strategy, isn't it?
Well done. Very thanks to you.
Okay, so now the questions are flooding in, now that I was saying we're going to round up. Okay, so the next one is a thank you for referencing PwC's Catching the Wave report. The report commented on the strengths of the UK shipping services, but how important it is to have vessels of all types owned in the UK. How was that a question? The report commented? But how important is it to have vessels of all types owned in the UK? So I'll give that one to Mark, if that's okay.
How important is it to have vessels of all types owned in the UK? I think our ambition, and I'll maybe Joss and John could pitch in here, but my view is that it's about ship ownership and management and operations in the UK, and that flows into vessels of different types, covering different subsectors of the industry. And seafarers and all the other things, the knock-on benefits. But for me, the primary driver is about attracting increased investment, ship ownership and management here. And, as I said before, dealing with the big challenge that's facing us on decarbonisation. So I think as broad as the industry needs that to be, I think we welcome it. And I guess it's often market-driven, you know, which vessel types are required for which functions and how that works. I think it's quite a broad subject. But our job, and when I come on to summarise, I'll talk a bit about this, but our job is to stay in lane and focused and keep this service driven towards connecting with government departments and making sure the dialogue's appropriate and making sure that we're not going too far off piste with various, niche areas, but keeping it mainstream with the primary focus of connecting businesses, whether they're here or internationally, with the right experts across government. And those market forces will take effect as things evolve over time.
Yeah. We have another one for you, Mark. It's a great question. So where should we expect the concierge service to be a year from now?
The true measure of success 12 months from now is that we are known, not just in the UK, but around the world, for welcoming customers, potential customers and actual day-to-day customers who are already here, and we genuinely are connecting those customers with government experts and policy leads, and we're doing a lot of work, and we become known at events and other things around the world for putting the UK on the map, and I think that would be the biggest sign of success for me.
Great. And then one for John has come in. So will the service assist in engaging with trade teams in British embassies who have over the years often been hard to connect with?
I think so. I mean, if you can enter through this organisation and we've missed it, I mean, we do try to contact as many people on our team as we can at the moment, but obviously small team at them and can't catch everything, but this gives us more resource that we can begin to pull on, begins to direct certain inquiries our way, and we can focus them to the trade network and make sure we're connecting in. So I think this is a good avenue for getting in that way, and we're more than happy to assist. I mean, you'd asked, where do you see things in a year's time? And I'm hoping we've got sort of smooth, seamless partnership working between us. And sometimes when those bits and pieces that we have missed because we're focused in certain areas are getting directed straight to that network. So I'm hoping this will definitely help with that.
Fantastic. Okay, so we've got a couple of other questions that have come in. So what we'll do is we'll make sure the team, as Mark said, answer those directly. Mark, I don't know if you wanted to say your final wrap-up.
Yeah, just a few reflections, and I just want to start by thanking my colleagues here for joining me today and joining us on this launch. I really appreciate the time. I know you've all got very busy weeks with Shipping Week, so for you to be here to support today is brilliant, and I'm really grateful for that. I've picked up quite a few reflections from the questions and the conversation. One is to make sure that we stay focused and we don't drift too far into too many niche areas. Keep our focus very much on the future, not just looking at how shipping sits today, but think about what's coming and be ready for that, and make sure we're in the space of having dialogue on those things. Market the UK and be visible around the world as we grow. Get our communication right with our government colleagues and make sure that we've got really good structure to that. And then my final point would be please contact us. We're here to support you. And I'm really looking forward to working with the team and running a brand new service for the UK, which really does take us forward for the maritime sector.
Fantastic, thank you, Mark. Well, that draws us to a close. So thank you, everybody, for attending virtually and some of you in person. We are, just really wanting people to get in contact. So if you are considering moving or expanding or establishing a base in the UK, definitely get in contact as well as if you're already here. There might be avenues for support too. So we're open for business, and come and meet the team. Like I said before, they genuinely are the best of the best. So you've got a fantastic team of people here. So definitely come forward and we'll do everything we can to help. So thank you very much and have a great afternoon or evening or morning, depending on when you're listening. Thank you very much.